Well, hello everybody. Good to have you all here. This is the third episode of our show, 𝙆𝙗𝙪𝙢𝙗𝙧, Spiritual Unity of the Three Principles. Joined here by my co-host, 𝙎𝙪𝙢𝙗𝙪𝙪, and today's topic is going to be about Khushuu, which is an Arabic word for the state of humbleness. And in my decent opinion, the state of humbleness is that place where we all meet, where we all feel one part of everything. And there is a quote that reminds me of this, is by C.S. Lewis. It's a British author, and he says that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So today we're gonna be exploring that state of humbleness, and yeah, I'll give it over to Harry to share what's your definition of this.
Well, the word fascinated me because it's highly emphasized in the prayers of in the Muslim religion. And by the way, if I say anything that offends people, please understand I don't intend it to be that. I'm just kind of an innocent person and really not that knowledgeable in it. But it fascinated me to see that it was an aspect of prayer, of this humility that the people come in. And I read that, you know, that's why the Muslims bow the way they bow to the ground. It's a show of humility, and it's a word that I actually have never really investigated that much, although many people suggested I would grow much more if I had more humility. So, but one of the definitions that just like the C.S. Lewis one, this is from Rafa Nadal, the world famous tennis player who's known as one of the most humble players out there, especially when he wins, it turns out. Not quite as humble, I hear, when he doesn't win, but that's another thing. So, but he has indoctrinated humility into his game. And this is what he said: humility is the recognition of your limitations. And it is from this understanding, and this understanding alone, that the drive comes to work hard at overcoming them. So I thought that was interesting because in relating it to prayer, I can see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Omar, that the Muslims pray 5 times a day. And what I think the practice is that you get caught up in the outside world, and then you come down and you let go of those thoughts and you quiet down in a humble way. And then you don't think that you're always so powerful and successful because of what you do. You recognize the power of Allah in the success that you're achieving. And that humility, that I understand, because in my own life, as long as I was trying to use willpower, I was unsuccessful. When I had a deeper understanding of free will or Allah's will, my life totally turned around. So I see humility as a way of plugging in to the spiritual power of Allah. By lessening yourself and recognizing that there is something greater than who we are. I'm going to give you an image of it, since I like images. It was Patty Jo Wawashuk and I did a talk with the ladies from Greenland the other day, and she brought an image that I really liked, and I thought it might be applicable to this word. Pronounce it again, please, Omar.
Khushuu.
Khushuu. Yeah.
Khushuu.
Oh, Khushuu. Yeah. Okay. Excuse. Yeah. You know, and she brought a cell phone, and she said the cell phone, after it's used, and this would apply to the Muslim who's working during the day, starts to power down. Now, the energy in the wall is always there. There's unlimited energy, but the necessity to plug in, when you plug in, you get recharged. And I think that has an essence of the teachings of sure. Oh, excuse me, I'm making fun of it. It's terrible.
Well done, Harry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So when we humble ourselves, what we're actually saying is the truth. It's actually not something you do. It's just seeing yourself in relationship to Allah or to God or whatever word, Great Spirit, or whatever word Christ consciousness, whatever word you want. And that brought up a thought in my mind when I said that. Talking to people of the Christian faith, a friend of mine is very knowledgeable in that, a very close friend, and he emphasizes humility as well. So the Muslims emphasize humility, in prayer, and I would imagine in the walk of life, the Christians emphasize it, and I think every aspect of growing in your level of consciousness requires you to step down out of your head into a silence where we can feel we're plugged in to the universal energy of love and understanding. So that's my little song and dance for this moment.
I love your song, Harry. And something came up while you were talking about plugging in, is that when we are in a state of humbleness, we are all interconnected there. There is no separation. We see things as they are, not as ourselves think. Because you know, in 𝙃𝙪𝙢𝙢𝙗𝙚 quote about thinking of yourself less. Self is made up. We make up this because there is nothing such as self. There is only oneness. You know, we are not a drop in the ocean. We are the whole ocean in a drop. And when we are in that space, we are really not coming from a place of ego. We come from a place of purity, and it's really beautiful what comes out of that. I call it the wisdom station. If you are waiting for a wisdom train and you want to have an insight, you have to wait in the station. So this is the best, perfect station to get into the wisdom train. And the thing is that we don't know when the train gonna come, but we have to wait in the station to get insights and wisdom. So yeah, anything to add, Harry?
Well, it seems that this word is related to prayer as well, because it is obvious to the non-Muslims that the Muslims pray an awful lot. 5 times a day is much more than any other religion has emphasized it. The indigenous people see that every act, every thought, every feeling is a sacred prayer. So, but physically to do it, I was just wondering if some of the guests could relate to how they see prayer and humility together. You want to give it a shot, Mark, just to give it?
Yeah, I'm happy to add something. First of all, my religious views. I don't tie myself to any one religion. I think we all believe in the same thing. So I guess I'm agnostic. And but humility.
Excuse me. You're not agnostic. You're spiritual.
I'm spiritual. Okay, I'm spiritual. Thanks for the correction, Harry. I don't believe in any one religion, so I'm a spirit, but I'm a very spiritual person. And part of my life has been the misfortune of addictions, and I've attended the Narcotics Anonymous. And during that, you may know that they do the 12 steps, the traditions. And within there, there's a great emphasis on humility and being humble. And I guess in my latter years, my humility has grown from what it was when I was younger. And I would say as an example would be the ability, and I've noticed this at work, the ability when I'm in trouble to just ask for help. Say, admit, I don't understand this. Can somebody help me with this? And that can be with anything in my life. And I know now that the answer back is always going to be positive. The other person seems to get a positive energy from somebody when they hear somebody asking for help. It's not very often you say to somebody, I'm an IT consultant and I'm expected to have certain skills, but it would not be anything I would expect to hear from anybody as an IT consultant to say to another one, look, I'm having trouble with that bit of script and I don't understand it. Do you understand it? And the person would look at it and say, oh, yeah, I tell you what happened, and you work together and you come together. And being able to do that, just that very act, that very act of being humble and saying, I can't do this on my own. I need help with this. I've found it's been very powerful in my life, really powerful.
It is. To reiterate that in different words, someone asked Sid, do you understand? She says, I don't understand anything you're saying. And he says, that's good. And she says, what do you mean that's good? I don't understand. He says, are you getting a positive feeling? She says, yeah, but I don't understand any of the words. He says, that's the best state of learning. I guess that's what we're defining as humility, what you define, Mark, and what Sid taught. It's the best state of learning when we say, I don't know. And the one thing I did find out that Salah, or which is a word for prayer, emphasizes the heart. And that's what Sid was doing when he says, listen for a positive feeling. Because whenever I'm in a state of I don't know, I'm in maximum learning mode. And in addiction, the problem people have is they don't know, but they pretend they do know. And then one day they find out they don't know, and they're on the road to recovery. So, because then you're plugged in. So that seems to be a necessity in our myth of a contrast between the way the world says you must be, successful, powerful, aggressive, you can do, you pretend if you don't know. I'm so great. The real answer, according to what you said, Mark, and what Sid is talking about, is it's in humility. And if I don't know or I don't understand is very, very powerful state of mind. I want to emphasize, it's not a practice. It's not a thing that you achieve, you do by doing a bunch of steps. That's the myth of the world. It's an understanding that you don't know. Plain and simple. You know, I don't know, and I'm tired of pretending I do. You know, type of state. You can feel the chip off your shoulder comes off. I love that. I love that. I never realized that I understood humility until what you said, Mark. I honestly didn't know that, but it's what I practice every day. Coming on this show, you know what I say? Just be Harry. Forget about all the rest of the stuff. I got nothing else except just being Harry. Everything else is going to fail for sure. You know, and of course, then I'm relaxed and have a good time. Humility, good time. Lack of humility, serious. Kind of works like that. See, that humility is a cool word, Omar. I like it. I didn't even know I was humble.
Well, I think we just give labels to stuff, but we are that. It's our natural state. I mean, that's who we truly are, if we look at it deeply, on a deeper level. And what I was hearing Mark's story about being humble and asking for help and realizing, oh, I don't know. I should maybe ask. I remembered the first time when I came across the 3 principles, and Dr. Keith was the speaker. And I said this story, but I just want to highlight one thing in the story that showcase my, kind of arrogance back then. I was into self-development, and when I was listening to Keith, I thought that I knew what he was talking about. I know what he's talking about. Of course I know. Thought. I mean, just what you focus on expands. And at some point, like, I realized, oh my God, like, I don't really know what he's talking about. I don't, and my ego, like, wanted to try to make sense of what he's talking about, but I couldn't. So I was kind of arrogant about it, thinking that I understood what he's talking about. Of course I understand you, Keith. It's this, it's that. And Keith is like, no, Omar, it's not this. So when I really said to myself that okay, let's be honest, I don't know what he's talking about. And then I stayed there. I don't know what he's talking about. And I start listening. And then in the second day, I got really impacted, where I got in a quiet space, and I was feeling so peaceful, secure. And normally I feel this when I meditate or I pray or do something about my stressful feelings. So being humble really is just, or the state of humbleness is just letting it be, because it's already there. And what comes in between is our ego. Oh, I know this. I know how to fix this problem. I know how to do this and that. Like, it's okay if we don't know. And the more I understand how life works and the system works, the more I know that I know nothing, and there is still more to learn and know. So I think it's beautiful to be in that space and really learn and get impacted. And we can't be religious or spiritual without being in a state of humbleness. Because if we are not there, we will be trying to figure it out. We will try to make sense of what we don't know yet. Therefore, we can't get impacted. And it reminds me of the metaphor of if you want to pour water in a glass of wine, you have to empty the wine, then pour water. And that's that.
That's so practical too, Omar. I can, and when Omar was talking, I can feel why they go and pray 5 times a day. And it's like you get caught up in the world and you're confused, and then you go and you pray, and then you empty the glass, let some of the water come out, and you're fresh again to newness, Not what was in your head was not working. Perhaps somebody insulted you and you got hurt by that. And then you go and pray and you let go of the hurt, and you walk back and you see that person in a new light. Or you got caught up in a business deal and you just didn't know the answer. And then you pray, let the water out, and new fresh water comes in. Now that is something the Western world does not understand. I'm sure of that. Activity, more activity, keep going, keep learning, go, 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 go. And the Muslim, Allah say, no, you gotta empty out. The mind works a certain way. That's the system, Omar. The mind works a certain way. There's no system. That's nonsense. What there is the mind works a certain way in the formless energy of life. And one of the ways it works, it requires, is you have to empty out to allow new energy to come in. It's a fact. And the Western world doesn't understand it. And the Muslim world understands it to a deeper level, or Allah understood it to a deeper level. And I you know, it's interesting, because if you come into a meeting full of anxious, nervous, worrisome energy, I wouldn't give you much of a chance to have a successful meeting. You come in after praying with letting go of all of that stuff, much better chance that this meeting is going to be where I don't know rather than I think I know. Sharon, what do you think about this? Yeah, what do you think? You can unmute yourself. Can you unmute her, Omar?
There we are. I'm confused and I don't know. I actually I don't pray, but I meditate, and I actually try to meditate at least 5 times a day. And I actually, Kaiser taught me that 10 years ago. They introduced me to meditation, and it was for that purpose, to bring you back down. And so the humble part, I'm still really confused about, and I'm kind of not thinking too hard, because that's one of the things I've learned with the 3 principles so far is don't think about it so much or try to analyze it. So sometimes a few days later, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was. But because sometimes I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm not. It's almost, I'm tying it into self-esteem. So I have to like tell myself, no, you are good or whatever. So I'm getting it confused with self-esteem as opposed to being humble.
Well, let's talk about that then.
Okay.
Anybody, I don't want to be the first to let's talk. That's a very good comment. It's another side of the angle, isn't it? Humility is you're thinking less about yourself. Self-esteem is the expression of God energy, Allah energy. How does that work? Anybody? Not all at once, though.
For me, in self-esteem, one thing I've learned is not to take myself seriously, and not to take life seriously, to find levity and joy and very, very simple things, which you can find, you know. And I guess we were talking about being humble there, but also, you know, at certain times when you're humble, you know, don't be afraid to say, I'm a bit of a dunce here, you know, I should know all this, you know, I'll make a joke. But yeah, there is a room in the spiritual life for a levity, which brings us all closer, I believe.
Oh,
You know,
beautiful.
just keep it simple. Surrender, be humble, and don't take yourselves too seriously. Life ain't serious.
Good advice.
Yeah, and the way I kind of see the connection is if you're humble, I mean, not the act of humbleness, please. We're talking inside out humbleness, not you do something to be humble, or you say things in a certain way, or you pray because you're humble. Not that type of humbleness. There's a deeper, a natural expression. So what I heard was humble is secure. Because if your natural state is to be humble, because God is greater than Harry, period. Even though, as Omar says, we're part of the whole ocean and we tap into that, we're still just a drop. And to be secure means to not be fearful. And not fearful means high self-esteem. Being yourself is your natural state of high self-esteem. Only when you bring in your fearful and insecure thoughts, thus not being humble, because you're thinking about yourself a little bit too much. So the freedom is quiet, let those thoughts not dominate your consciousness. Humbleness means you're comfortable in your own skin. Of course, that would be another definition of high self-esteem. So they actually are directly related. And you bring up a very interesting point, Sharon. The Muslim world talks about humbleness, and the Western world talks about high self-esteem. Yeah. Thinking they're different, but they aren't. Humbleness is more, I think, Omar, a spiritual word, and high self-esteem is more a psychological word. Both talking about exactly the same thing. And Sid talked about that, how mastermind and the little mind, the Western world talked about the little mind and how it works, and the Eastern world talked more about mastermind. And then he says they both meet at a certain place. They're really both the same thing. So self-esteem, humbleness, two ends of the same picture.
Thank you. That it's still all kind of going in my mind, and if I haven't learned anything from 3 Ps, it's just don't think so hard. and I'm really new to all of this, and it's amazing how it's been just kind of like you all say, when you calm it down, it kind of comes to you, and I'm like, ooh, this is kind of neat. Thank you. I just keep learning. Good. I like it. Thank you.
How about you, Emma?
Hi, I'm really enjoying the conversation, and I'm sorry I'm late. It's early in the morning here, so it's just taking me a while to wake up. I had this realization that I always wanted to help people a long time ago, but I was often giving of myself, and then I had nothing left. And when you were talking about emptying the cup, that I feel like the more I see the nature of thought and life and how we're working, it's like the cup is just continuously being filled, and then it overflows. And the overflowing is what I can share freely with everyone. So it's a completely different place. And to be in a place of gratefulness and stillness and just awe at how amazing life is. It's just, for me, that's, I can't put words to it. But it's, you said before about how was it the Indians say that every act is a prayer?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what struck me, is that every time I'm waking up to life and its beauty, and it's just like, wow, then every act is a prayer when I'm moving from that space.
And every ceremony is a prayer.
Mm.
Too. So everything, so the pipe ceremony, and the sweat lodge, and the Uweepi, and the sun dance, it's all just different ways of praying and connecting, plugging in to what you were talking about, which was very beautiful, by the way. It's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, very.
And the other thing I'd say is, Sharon, you don't need to stop thinking. You just don't need to believe your thoughts so much.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'll have to write that down and take it for my own. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because I used to be like, blah, 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 in my head the whole time. And I don't think I could possibly have pushed those thoughts away. That would have taken too much effort.
You can't anyway. You have all you can do is understand the role of thought or the nature of thought. You cannot control that aspect of it. That's where AA and all that stuff loses. They talk a lot about ego thought and stuff. It's that sits at that alone. You're interested in the true nature of thought. And the other quiets down as your innerness comes out. That's the only way I could describe it. One day, all of a sudden, I was sharing what Sid was really talking about. And up to that point, I really wasn't. I was aspects of it, but not really what the purity of what he was expressing. And that's what he emphasized the most, the purity of the principles. They were more precious than getting a lot of people to listen.
Yeah. I don't know if I share the purity of the principles, but what I do know, when you said one day, I feel like that from how I feel inside is like one day I was feeling like this, and then some other time I woke up and realized I wasn't anymore. And there wasn't any doing in between. It just kind of happened.
Me too. Me too. It was a surprise. I'll be honest, it was a surprise. And when I say the purity, I just mean speaking to the level that you are and no more. I guess that would be humility too. Speaking just to the level you are, not pretending you know more than you do. And in 3P, that can be quite tricky when you talk to other people, type of thing. All you have to do is share who you are. And that's the greatest gift of all. There's no pressure. And not only that, even if you're talking way deeper than you've ever talked before, Sid's got a whole nother level. So you don't have to worry about all that empty space. It's there. You just point people and leave it to the Spirit to do the teaching. I guess that's humility too. Leave it to the Spirit to do the teaching. And that's what I learned in native spirituality. And that's what Sid was talking about. He didn't talk on Salt Spring about psychological wellness. He talked about the spiritual nature of who we are. And that's it. And by the way, watch your beliefs. That was pretty much the message. Oh, and it's inside. And of course, I heard not too much of it. But it led me to the place where I needed to go. And that's what we're sharing here. Omar, Sharon, Mark, Emma, and me. We're just saying, thank you. At least I know something. You know, before I was like, oh, I was full of myself, full of intellect. And you notice when you talk to people, this is humility. When they're full of intellect, you can't penetrate it. It's humility to let that be. To let that be the way it is. Because the Spirit is doing the teaching. And so on. So Omar, tell us a little more. I'd like to hear a little more of this word in relationship to prayer.
Well, before I share more, I just want to say that, oh my God, you were talking about the stage of humbleness, and then I got there and I was just listening. And it was just beautiful what Emma and Sharon shared and what you shared, Harry. So what do you want me to share about again?
I love prayer not as an act, but prayer as a direct plugging into Allah and that energy. In the Indian world, native Indian, we call it hollow bones. Like, no interference.
Yeah, I mean, this was the role of prayer is really. It's not to. I mean, that's how I look at it, at least me, because to be honest with you, there is a missing part in Muslims people's, like some of them, about the spiritual side of our religion. You know, they focus more on the practical side of it and what we should do and we should not do, but they still blind to the spiritual aspects of it. And what I mean by that is to look deeper, you know, because prayer is not, I mean, it's not going to benefit Allah. It's benefiting us. When we do it, we really do it for us. And that's really interesting, because I never used to think about it like this. I used to think that I used to have pictures of how God or infinite intelligence looks like, and
Hello?
This really interfere.
Jim, I'll give you a call back.
This really interfere with really connecting with the source of everything. And the state of being humble is really just it's the collapse of the ego. you know, because in that space there is no ego. There is only unity, pure love, knowledge, a deeper knowledge, and wisdom. That's what I felt while listening to to Sharon and Emma, and you, Harry. I just got quiet and I feel in that space of humbleness, because I think that's who we truly are. We truly are that space of humbleness, beauty, connection, unity, no matter what the word is, but it's that which connects us all. So, would you like to share something, Mark? Anything that you're seeing, you're hearing?
While you were talking, and Omar, and while I've been listening to everybody, sure, Harry will correct me if I'm wrong. I think Sid said, listen for the feeling. And that very act alone, in so many situations, can make your life a whole lot easier. When you're in pain, if you're suffering pain, if you learn to observe as if the pain was a different part of you, you know it's you, but it's part of your ego, not your spiritual side. If you observe it, understand it as a pain, which can go in time, that is something that I found. And also when people are talking, listen for the feeling. You know, I'm listening to everybody here tonight, you know, it's left me feeling wonderfully relaxed. I'm enjoying it. And yeah, it's fabulous to talk openly about something which is incredibly important in life, which is humility. I guess if there was more humility in the world, we wouldn't have as much trouble as we do. You know, maybe step back a bit. I'm not a political man, but I don't think the President of the United States knows the word humility. But I'll just leave it at that.
You bring an interesting point up. While you were talking, Mark, and you notice quite a few of us have said, while someone else was talking, a thought arose in their consciousness or something like that. That's humility, allowing that to happen rather than always just thinking about what you have. But when you talked about listening to the feeling, that is truly the definition of humility, because I know for myself, my life is totally simplified because I make 98% of my decisions based on feeling rather than intellect. And my life is something that we used to think about for 2 weeks, a minute, 30 seconds, and it's resolved. And so when you give up your belief in your own intellectual prowess, and that the intellect, the brain, is the governing force of your life, and that you must be very clinical in your approach to life. I'm not a clinical person, so I just don't like it. This frees us to flow like the river rather than stop at every rock and examine it to see what it is. It kind of reminds me of a story. I'm going to digress. Chip told this story twice actually. I don't know why he keeps repeating the same story, but this lady was in Newfoundland and she had to go to this island. And the raging seas were all over the place. And someone said to her, well, this old geezer will take you across. So she went to him and he had this old boat and he he says, oh yeah, I can do it. And as they're in the water, guess what happens, Sharon? This is, her mind got troubled. This is a little scarier than I imagined it was going to be. And so she yells to the guy, do you know where the rocks are? And he yells back, no, ma'am, I don't, but I know where they ain't. And that's humility, going where the rocks aren't, not getting, we don't have to examine, understand everything. That's Allah's domain. And let's face it, even Sid said he's a baby, so, you know. But what happened?
I just want to share something that came to mind. I think Rumi said this. He says that leave thoughts to the one who created them.
Perfect.
And that's simply we just said, Harry.
And Rumi is like unbelievable. He speaks in a different way, but he's so precious. Every time I see a quote from him, I go, wow, is that guy.
Yeah, I love Rumi.
Yeah. So in fact, we should do a show on just Rumi, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, I mean, he's so, but what you said is so perfect. And that's what humility is.
I think Emma wants to share something.
Well, I saw a post on Facebook the other day, and it said somebody asked Einstein, did he believe in God? And Einstein said, no, I believe in, and I hadn't heard of this person, so I'm probably going to say the name wrong, like Shiphouse or Ship's God. He was some kind of I don't know, like Rumi, I guess. And and then there was this whole passage, and it said, I don't want you to worship me in some dark old dingy building. I don't want you to worship me on specific days. I want you to see that I'm all around you. Every time you look at a blade of grass, I'm there. And I can't remember what else it said, but it was basically just along those lines of, I'm within you, I am everything. It was just so beautiful. So I need to look at that again.
And that's why we're doing this show, is to show there's all these beautiful ways to express truth. And because truth has been here, as Sid said, from the beginning of time.
And what you said, sorry, about Allah and people believing they have to worship because that's what Allah wants. So that's what this was speaking to too. It was speaking to, you have free will to do whatever you want, and I love you regardless. And to see you enjoying it is the worship. Was basically, I mean, I'm hashing it out completely, but that's what I got from it.
That's the essence. If you're enjoying it, you're doing the principles correctly. That's the purity of the principles. If you're enjoying it, you're listening to what Allah is pointing towards. If you enjoy it, Bhagwan or Rob or the great nothingness, or etc., etc.
If people didn't enjoy it, it means that they didn't get it yet, or they're looking at it in a lower level of consciousness. You know, I love the metaphor of comparing levels of consciousness to the elevator. You know, when you are in the first floor, you see things, you know, this is a car, this is this is that. When you go to the upper floor, you see things from a deeper perspective, small things. they mean much in the lower consciousness, level of consciousness, but in the upper level of consciousness, it doesn't mean much. And it's, you see them as how things really are. And that's what this means to me, when I have a higher level of consciousness, I don't get caught up easily to my thinking, or I don't get upset, or I don't, I love this, if you don't want to get offended, don't take offense. And that's really it. When I'm in a lower level of consciousness, I really take offense, so I'm offended, I'm upset. But when I see things from a higher perspective, I don't really get caught up to this. So going back to what I wanted to say is that people read the word, but there is a deeper meaning to what the Quran points to, and it points people to a truth, to one truth that's all religions point to, and that's the truth of who we truly are and what is life about. It's one truth. And I love using this Zen metaphor, which is eat the fish whole and spit the bones. So when I listen to something and it points me back to who I truly am, then I will be welcome to listen to it. And but if it doesn't point me at who I truly am, and it points me to the world of form, the illusion, that I will doubt. And that's what I think Sid says when he talks about the purity of the three principles, because I guess that people innocently add stuff to the 3P and make it a thingified, but that's not the purpose of the three principles. In fact, there is nothing such as the three principles. It's just one truth. I think the Sid talks about the 3P just to demystify it to people who think using their intellect too much, and that's has one purpose, to point people within, not consciousness, thought, and mind, because they're all one. Yeah, so this is what came to mind. I guess we're approaching the end of this session. It's been really beautiful. If anyone want to add something or want to share an insight, or go ahead, just unmute yourself.
I just want to say
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to everyone, and there's a lot in there, and it's kind of floating around, and I've learned a lot today from everyone. Thank you. This is nice. I love this group. Thanks.
That's why we're doing this show. Is see, 3P has a lack of diversity and a singular way of getting the message out. But a lot of us don't like that. We want to hear from it from different angles, and the universality, because Sid never put it in a box. How do you put the formless energy of thought, the formless energy of mind, and the formless energy of consciousness in a box? The box is form. So that's what people have already noticed, is that we're not talking just book 3P. We're talking universality 3P, the way Sid talked about it. See, it didn't matter. He said philosophy or education or psychology or religion. It's always going to be the same answer anyway. But you know, when you come at it from these different angles, it brings fruit to our minds, and it brings ideas. So when Omar shares about the world according to Allah, it brings fruit to us, because we go, oh yeah. And very important with diversity, we see how beautiful it is. Very beautiful, this Muslim faith. Very, very beautiful. Actually, more than just terrorism in there. No offense, Omar, I just thought I'd throw that in. If Mark can bring it.
I mean, it's great to talk about that, because yeah.
But
I guess there's a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions about this religion. I don't want to talk about, you know, what the media portrays and this and that, because I think people start, you know, waking up to the truth. That's they are focusing about this side, but they're ignoring this side. You know, so they could easily influence people when they are here. When we are here, we could easily get influenced by those things, and that's why it's always good to come back to the state of humbleness, because there we could learn and expand our knowledge of truth, and that will make us closer to people. Not you're Muslim, you're Chinese, you're Black, you're to people, because we are all in the same boat of life. We are playing the same game of life, and we have these beautiful gifts, thought, mind, and consciousness that point us to our true nature and the one truth.
Good spot to.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
It's been lovely. Lovely way to start the day for me. Thank you.
Good to hear.
Thank you, Emma, for coming. Thank you all for coming. And thanks to Harry for sharing his wisdom with us. It's been a wonderful session, or at least to me. Yeah, thank you for coming, and see you in 2 weeks' time. I think we have our first guest, Christine Heath. And what's the topic, Harry?
Great topic. Goes right in what we're the diversity of the three principles. She's on the board of the 3PGC as one of the old established, but it was her thrust to 3PGC to say we need more diversity. It can't just be for the Western white crowd. It's diversity. When Sid was around, Mark, there was a lot of diversity, a lot. And then when he and Roger disappeared, it went a different direction. But now, and Christine's leading that march, diversity in the three principles. We need it.
Yeah, because we are all one, but lots of people are believing that we're not. So it's like we need to be that rainbow.
That's right. Yeah. Notice the name of our show, 𝙆𝙖𝙩𝙙𝙪𝙪, Spiritual Unity of the Three Principles.
Tawheed is the Arabic word for the spiritual unity, really, or oneness.
I've been seeing a lot about that word. Umbatu is another word.
What is that?
Umbatu. Is that how you say it? It's the African word. Without
okay.
It's what is it? When I win, we all win. We all go together. It's unity. It's
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a really great way to end this. So thank you all once again for coming in, and yeah, see you all in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks. Thank you. God bless.
And thanks for sharing, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.